figure, fit model competitors. So the classes I didn't see at the last two shows that Jack's put on is fitness, women's females bodybuilding, and women's physique. And if there were one or two. But if you go to women's bikini and fit model and women's figure, the classes were loaded. So that's but and the crazy thing about that is they're so interchangeable that that's what's happening. Because I remember me and Jack having a conversation this last weekend saying what we call it the crossovers that can cross over, and they do it at the national level too. They do it at Gary Udick shows where they'll like I told you guys many stories about Tina where she would do women's physique, but then a girl would come from women's figure and beat her in women's physique because she had too much muscle. And so I'm like, how does that fucking work? So then when she finally went to Wings of Strength and went to women's bodybuilding, first show, turned pro. And so the rest is history. So what I realized this last weekend, looking at a lot of these competitors compete from a perspective is their coaches have them in the wrong divisions. Like there was a girl who was wearing pink, I don't know her name. She was, I think, third or fourth in bikini, but clearly she was a wellness girl. So this is a coach's thing too, where you have to look at your client and decipher, is she wellness or is she bikini? And because she had so much muscle on her legs and a bikini upper body, but kind of a wellness upper body, as if I'm her coach, I'm like, we're not doing bikini because we're wasting our money. We're gonna do wellness. And if she would have did wellness, because she only did bikini, she would have won wellness. Hands down, she would have won wellness. But some of these women, excuse me, are so locked in to a specific category that they shouldn't be in, and
Right.
that's their downfall.
Right. I agree.
Yeah,
There are
that's what
people that I know. Sorry, go ahead.
Blessing mentioned. Yeah, that was Blessing mentioned in our interview I posted earlier, where she talked about how when she was in wellness, then she switched over to figure, then she moved up to physique and was bodybuilding because her body was just growing a certain way. But I know some ladies that will fight to the teeth. They don't want to go up. But the subject is, we got here. Shout out to my man, Damon J. He says this. He says, shout out to Damon. Um, he says, okay, dude, we get it. You think that the sport of bodybuilding is trash, so go about your way. Mike, whoever you are, or you already say that right there. Okay. Also, this is from man KL. He says this. He says, I couldn't, he says, I see bodybuilding as a strict discipline than a sport. And he says this also. He says, I couldn't afford to go to the gym before I say competing on stage bodybuilding. Also got here from my man Damon J says, yeah, Keith, it's right. Those trophies aren't made out of plastic. So that Mike guy is wrong. She is bitter as hell to me. And also, this is from my man, shout out to my man, KL. He says, everybody can't shine on the internet, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not meant for everybody. But here the thing is, the one thing about the crossovers, the promoters make money
Right.
Yeah.
because you got to think about it. I interviewed a lady, she won 3 pro cards in 2 different divisions. She won 2 in figure and 1 in physique
How do you do that?
because she was
How do you
competing with
how do
classes.
you how do you win two pro cards in the same division at the same show?
Well,
Where
and
How
she
does
was two
that
different
happen?
classes. She was
Oh,
two different,
okay. All
and
two
here's
right.
the
different
thing, Jeremy.
classes.
This is a problem I have as a judge, and I'm a judge, and I'm about to start judging Jack shows. I judge Kim and Chad shows, so they lost. I just come to recently found out they lost all their shows because of their promotion abilities. So here's the problem that I have. So the last show I went to before this show in Iowa, and this show in Iowa as well, is that you had a guy who did classic physique and won the novice and won the open and won the overall title. Then he went to proceed to win the bodybuilding novice, open, and overall title. I'm like, how the fuck does that happen? Chris Bumstead can never go from winning men's classic physique, and we've seen it after he did the Olympia, and then go over to Romania. I think what was it? Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, and try to do men's bodybuilding and didn't win. So again, like I told Jack and I told people, the perspective of judges, meaning saying some of these amateurs, not pros, but amateurs, need a perspective like, okay, if you're going to win classic, you can't win bodybuilding because they're two different looks.
Right.
But because that's what these judges are allowing to happen, that's what's happening. And I told Jack this weekend this too. I said, I was in Minnesota for a long time with Chris Mangiapane. And a lot of these judges who shouldn't be judging because you test judge 3 shows and you score a certain percentage makes you judges. Then these athletes go to the national shows and they get fucking waxed because they don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what it actually takes to go to the national show and get on stage and understand what the national judges are looking for, and they wonder why they suck because they're telling them, well, you can do both divisions, but at the end of the day, you need to make a decision which division you want to be in. You can't do both.
Right.
You
That's the
know,
way it
Nick
should
Jones
be.
can't do both.
Yeah.
Chris Bumstead can't do both. Andrew Shaw can't do both. Samson Duwa can't do both. They have to pick a class and stick to that class and keep it moving. And even Lee Heaney just said, when everybody's talking about this new kid, the
Sam
212 guy, he said, everybody's telling them to put 20 pounds on and go to open. Why? Why would you do that? To ruin your physique? You're a 212 guy. Keep that look and keep it pushing and stay the 212 champion. There's no reason for Keon to ever go to the open class because he would just ruin his physique. And so when you got all these people in your ear and telling you all this shit, it makes no sense. And that's what's happening at the amateur level, and that's what's happening at the pro level.
And I know only in Masters where you're allowed to double dip. Because I know later I interviewed Robin Mays. She competed at the Masters championships last year. She did both women's bodybuilding in Masters and women's physique in Masters. And I think she might have won in one class. She's already qualified for the Masters Olympia because she won her. I think she won 40 plus. You know, Robin just won the Toronto earlier this month, and she also won the Masters. But it's only in the Masters where you can cross between divisions because you have to pay. So you think about it, you're gonna have because you're gonna have people
Well,
like
not only in but George, not only in Masters, but in and as an amateur you can cross because again, what promoter is going to say no, you can't? Oh, well, it's 250 to compete in this class and 250 to compete in that class. That's $500. What promoter is going to tell them no?
Right. As long as it's available for them to do.
Exactly.
And like you say, it's a pure money grab because it's like getting to the point now. You look at all these subdivisions that you see. That you've got open, you got masters, 35 plus 40, 45, 50, 60. Now on top of that, there's no such thing as novice anymore. There's true novice, which means you've competed one time. Then you got pure novice when you've never competed. Now you got the heroes. You got the heroes division. I don't even know what the hell that is.
True novice. Okay, so
right. It's like what the hell is going on here?
So
all of those are a separate fee. All of them.
You've never done a show before, so I wouldn't let my competitors even shit because it's just more money for the promoter. And I'm like, yeah, if you get so true novice is if you've never done a show ever before, which most of my clients have never.
Right.
The college athlete, one's a college student studying to be a doctor, one's a guy who works at Walmart. They've never done a show before. I said you're going to do novice and you're going to do open. You're not going to do true novice and do novice and do open. So when you do novice, what I come to find out was that, and it's really bullshit because I seen a girl probably about 6 months ago who I know named Amy do true novice, and this is how crazy it is. They don't even check. So she won the show in Iowa, another show in Iowa. She did true novice at a show in Kansas City, novice and open. She won all 3 classes. And I said, wait a minute. But just 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, you did true novice and won it there, so you shouldn't be able to do that. But because they don't check, she won true novice, novice, and open again. So novice is if you've never won a class if you never won an open class, you can still. So if you've done a show and you were second or third,
right,
win it, you can continually keep doing novice until you want to open class. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is like going back to the subject again. For you, sorry, I mean, Nicole, as a competitor, because you are in another organization where it's
Hmm.
not as well. It's gaining some traction, you know.
Yeah.
And for you, I know you said again, you only compete once a year, but
Mhm.
for one thing, for people who want to know, go through the details of your expenses for as you are competing.
Okay. I'll just do for the show in general. Actually I'll go through what I'm paying for my show this year. One thing I said I'd like to do it when I have like that little windfall I get from the income tax return, so I have a little extra money. And yeah, so I have to pay to compete as a pro, and that was 285. I had to pay for tanning, which was 170. Hair and makeup, I haven't signed up for hair and makeup yet, but that's gonna cost. So hair and makeup is always between like $250. I had to pay for my pro membership, which is 180 in September. I bought a new suit because why not? It's my pro debut, right? Why not get a new suit? So I paid $900 for my suit because it's what I wanted. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I got some new jewelry. I usually use the same jewelry, but I got some new earrings. That I think it was like $10 for the new earrings. I bought a new pair of shoes because my other shoes were worn, so $50 for the shoes. My hotel for when I go there, it's gonna be like maybe things like 350 for the hotel for the stay. And yeah, I haven't even what my family's paying. I don't know how much the tickets are, but you got to pay them cash at the door. My coach, I got to pay $95 for her to be backstage. Um, so yeah, I wasn't adding this up. Maybe you're adding it up, George. So
I've been
it's
adding it
like
up. I'm coming
Right
to.
now, I am.
I've got $2,265 so far
yep,
out of everything that she just mentioned.
yep. That's only
So
for one day, right?
It's one day,
Well, the membership
and
is all
then,
year,
like I
but
said,
I only compete once a year.
yeah,
how much do you estimate that you spend on food in a contest prep?
Well, I'm in even I know it. I don't even calculate because I'm eating all year round. Like even during my off season, I'm still training. So
and with
a
you,
lot.
Keith, you
Yeah,
know,
and my
you
vitamins,
know,
and my vitamins too. My vitamins are
Right,
really expensive.
oh,
right.
your vitamins, yeah,
Vitamins.
because you take
Yeah.
vitamins, you'll steroids, you'll take performance enhancers, take because you're natural,
Yeah.
and I know with the guys, guys, Keith, y'all guys eat more food, and you are a enhanced competitor, and also you have your coach. You can't forget your coach. That's a payment.
Hmm.
Uh, the travel for shows that Keith said he'd get an Airbnb. I remember when I went to Savannah, what I did was this. You can go to Expedia or Hotel.com, and they usually can find you a deal because they can knock off maybe if if you find a hotel that might be usually 80, $100 a night. And this is what somebody told me. Just go to either Expedia, Hotel.com. You get do cheaper. Plus, you get to set up your reservation maybe a month early, and the cost will drop down from, because you think about it, if it will be like about so much money. Oh, you can take care of that, folks.
Yeah.
Telemarketer.
And then also hotels will have discount codes for the
Hmm.
show. Like the host hotel, if
Well,
you sign up like 2-3 months early, then they have a discount for that included. If you decide to, that's one way that you might be able to save on hotels. But yeah, going to those websites helps too.
well, here's the
They can
thing.
come up with a good deal. So
Last year when Tina did the Titan, which was a week, it was she did the Titan in Anaheim, and then I had the Reno show, which qualified me for the Master Olympia. Between those two shows, and we bring our kids because we have a 11-year-old and a 4-year-old, and all that, that cost us $13,000, and that was just for those two shows, and that's not including our prep and our food and all that other stuff. So that was 13 grand, because we stayed in one hotel, between the rental car, Mel's hotel, and everything else. That was just $13,000 just in itself, and that was for two shows, and that was like back-to-back weekends, So people don't understand with supplementation, with food, and all this other stuff. Our kids, because our kids go everywhere with us. That was that was probably. I mean, and I'm not even accounting the prep aspect of it, as far as food and stuff is concerned. So you're probably looking at about $25,000, something like that. That's what we probably paid, if not a little bit more. You know, and we can afford it. I'm not bitching. It's a choice that I choose to do this for, and this will be my last year doing it. But again, it was about I mean, remember Lori when she went to the Master Olympia, that was $30,000 just for her to go to what was it, Romania, to do the first Master Olympia. And that was, and she said for between her coach, her, and her husband to get over there and everything else was about $30,000 just to place 10th. That's so it's like I mean,
There's practically zero ROI.
yeah.
They're just. I'm sorry. It's like very, very, very few people see anything like an ROI.
Yeah.
Like probably the ones that you can count on one hand. It's like that you'll see ROI from competing. So let's specify from competing. Doesn't mean you can't make a return on investment in other ways. But
and the funny thing is, like the only cool thing that I can say that Jack Tatone had looked at both of my athletes and said this to him. He said, "Understand, so it doesn't put it in perspective, but it put it in perspective, kinda, if you can afford it. In Reagan's 21, Keaton's 29, about to get married in August. He said only 3% of the people and this is when Nicole comes into place too. Only 3% of people in the world can do what we do. 3% are able to do what we do in the world. Good, bad, or indifference. If it's only 3% of the people in the world can actually do what we do. And at the end of the day, it's you have to know going into this sport, it's a mind fucking mentally tough, which we talked about last week, and a very financially draining sport if you can't afford it. So you have to. That's and that's the one thing I'm excited about when it comes to doing these seminars with Jack coming up in the future. And that's Reagan. She just won. She won the novice, and then she won the open age class in bikini. Is that and that's Keaton. He won novice and was second. And again, those are not trophies; those are medals. But again, at the end of the day, to give athletes a perspective before they truly get into the sport of what it actually costs, and that's my sponsor, my new sponsor, Yelp. So videotape everybody. He's actually getting ready. Keaton, who's actually getting ready for Master Nationals himself. So and this guy is hustling and traveling all over the place, doing his thing as well. That's our smelling salts that the guys are testing out right now that are amazing. But that's another one of my clients right there, Caden. Who's actually getting ready for his first show. So again, at the end of the day, I always try to tell people when I'm starting to do these seminars and my athletes how much it actually costs to do this sport. Because I think they get into it. And here's the problem. Whether you're NAMBF, OBC, or whatever, IFBB, NPC, whatever the case may be, you have to understand it's not a cheap sport. This sport is not cheap. And like the guy said, do you really call it a sport? Yes, you call it a sport. I'm a 3-time pro athlete. And so football, track, and now bodybuilding. Hopefully soon to be bowling. But at the end of the day, it is a sport. It is a discipline. Did I want to get up this morning and do fucking cardio? I was like, fuck. After being up all weekend, no. Got to do 30 minutes cardio, got to pose, then go to the gym and do chest. It is a sport. Because I've always been an athlete, so it is a sport. So when he says, is it really a sport? Absolutely. Nicole can tell you the same thing. It is a sport. Mm-hmm. What these people don't understand, and Mike Liberatore told me this a long time ago when I was an amateur. He said, it's funny how we chase after these pro cards, and we get these pro cards, and once you get these pro cards, you got to start all the way at the bottom. You start all over again because you get the pro card, and you were the top amateur for a long time, and now you got to, and you're talking to a 3-time runner-up at Nationals and USA's before I turned pro with the 4th show, and then you got to start all the way over. You got to start all the way at the bottom, and then work your way back to the top. So it's the definition of insanity, but again, at the end of the day, we can bitch and complain all we want, but it's our choice to do what we do. No matter what federation you're in, it's our choice to do what we do. You know.
Yeah. We got a comment from man Damon J. Shout out to Damon J. He's just sticking in here. He says, fit model is trash, not bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is an art. Appreciate that, brother. I think a lot of people will agree with you on that. Some might not. You know. Also, he says, Sports Illustrated bikini model entering in the IFBB, becoming pros and having no muscle on their physique is the bottom of the barrel out of all of the divisions.
But
That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
but it's gonna bring in the most money.
it's going to bring in the
It's gonna
most.
bring the most money, not just. And the main reason why is just because of the competitor fees. It's like
Yeah,
I keep hearing the guys making the argument, oh, the women aren't making the money. Really? The promoters are not making competitor fees out of all of these women because every one of these crossovers is its own fee per woman, and multiply that by what, 50, 60 girls that are
yeah.
going to be going to a show? They're not
Think,
making money for them?
Jeremy, think about this.
Hell yes, they are.
This Jeremy, think about this. Jack Tone and Antatone now have 14 shows. 14.
Hmm.
That's a lot of money. Whether they're big or small. I mean, the Iowa show that I competed in, that I competed in, my clients competed in this last weekend was probably one of the smaller ones because it's a new market that they're going into, which was a phenomenal venue, phenomenal. I mean, here's the one thing I can say about Jack and Ann. Their setup, the way they treat the athletes, his whole staff in the back is females because he feels that they pay more attention to details and take care of athletes better. Even when I introduced him to my two athletes, he had his expediter come up and says, "This is their very first show. Please make sure if they have any questions or need anything, you take care of them." Liquid Sunrays were amazing with Reagan because we were having issues with his suit and being glued. They were amazing. I can say him as a promoter, as much as I didn't like Jack in the beginning, I've grown a respect for him because of the way he treats his athletes. And the reason why I say that, because me and George, and I don't know if you've seen it too as well, Jeremy, Lee Priest said the problem that he has with our sport is that they treat the athletes like shit. And the
Mm-hmm.
crazy thing is, why would you treat the athletes like shit when they're the ones who put the butts in the stand for the promoters to make all this money?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know,
that's the
because
problem.
Catones, they have I think two biggest shows they got for pros is St. Louis, where you know they have physique this year. They kicked it out because of you only had 5 competitors last year, while Pittsburgh had 3. And then you had the Omaha, which
Oh,
is just
yeah.
weekend for last, and you had like at least about little around 10, maybe more than 10 women, I believe. Still a good show. One thing I wish they would do is do a pay-per-view. People would like to see these shows. I don't know
See,
why.
see, this is what surprised me, Keith, is that when you said that you're going with Jack, it's like this is the same Jack you've been talking about on this podcast.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Because I
here's
was
the
going,
thing.
I was going to say it's not always been flattering.
Here's the thing.
So,
Here's the thing that I told Tina, and we just had this conversation in the driveway, is that I've never engaged with Jack the way I did this weekend,
mm,
finding out the things
okay.
that I found out about the Minnesota region for one, because I really didn't like Jack because I really thought he was an asshole, you know. But sitting down and engaging and having a conversation with him and actually finding out the things that were going on between him and Chad, which I really like him and Chad, and all the things that were going on, gave me a different perspective. So
Mm,
maybe I just didn't give him a chance because I really never really just didn't engage with him as a
mm,
person. I only knew him as a judge and understanding what he does for these amateur athletes. Because I don't think he's much on the pro side of judging anymore. I think he's just worried about doing the shows. And it even sounds like he's talking about retiring in the next few years. That it gave me a different perspective on
mm.
him this last weekend of who he was and what he's trying to accomplish and the shit that's actually going on behind the scenes of the NPC and the IFBB, which he didn't have to disclose to me, but he did. So it gave me a new found respect for him. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So that was, and so you're right, Jeremy, by calling me out on it, and I appreciate it. But what happened was having an hour conversation with them at the athletes check-in and finding out all the information and finding out the sport that built Big Keith Williams into who he is from Minnesota, being Mr. Minnesota 2006 and the Twin Cities Open to that now that region only having 2 shows in Minnesota, which Minnesota's a big fucking state, just baffled me and surprised the things that are going on in a state. And so me and Charles Griffith and some other pros have decided to team up with Jack and do some seminars with them to build up North Dakota and Minnesota because it's dying there because of the reputation that the NPC and the IFBB has been getting, saying that they're just money hoarders and just trying to collect checks, which they are, but their shows, when I was there, the shows were on and popping. I mean, they had them at the convention center, they had them at Mystic Lake Casino, they had them at middle schools, and now you're talking about 8 shows down to 2 shows. That's pretty crazy in the state of Minnesota alone. And then North Dakota had 2 or 3 or 4 shows, and now they don't have any shows. That's pretty crazy. So it's not forgetting where you came from and help trying to build that back up is what I'm trying to accomplish from that perspective.
Well, Big Brother, I know we have talked about Mr. Tetone and his situation when it came to women's bodybuilding. I'm not a fan of him. I will say that.
My wife's not
sometimes, sometimes situations make strange bedfellows. Here we got my man Damon J. Shout out to Damon J. Sticking in here, brother. He says this. He says, "Yeah, I know divisions like wellness, bikini, and fit model make money. Unfortunately and sadly, the women's bodybuilding and women's physique divisions don't bring in as much money and fans as the less muscle girls. Sadly, yeah, that's true. I know that, but still have fan base."
But
Also, he
here's the
says
thing:
this.
when they say that, they have to be careful with their words. It may bring in more money as far as competitors because it's more obtainable, but it doesn't line their pockets any more than women's bodybuilding or any other categories. It just brings in more money in the door, but it doesn't mean they're getting more money on the flip side of things. It's bringing more money into promoters. It's bringing more money into this, which in essence, I guess, bringing more money into promoters, bringing more money into their pockets. But the competitors aspect of it, their money is staying the same.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks is going to be the Universe. The Universe is in Teaneck, New Jersey. It's a pro qualifier, and I interviewed a couple of ladies who are bikini competitors who earned their pro cards at that show. Where they said that there was 600 bikini competitors. I know a lady who I interviewed a while back. She went to the show because she was supporting a friend of hers who was competing in the physique division, and she said it was, and got to think about it, 600 bikini competitors. You have so many different classes. So you got to think about it. Like, was it 250? Per. That's right there. You don't even have to. That's right now. Whoever, because that's Steve Weinberger's. He promotes that show.
250 times 600. And that's just bikini.
That's got to be in triple digits.
How long was this show?
It was a long show. That's like the Unix show. I mean, that's why these shows are becoming 4 or 5 days because of the amount. I turned pro at Team U in 2012. And so it's gotten bigger and bigger. And it's not bodybuilding. It's not classic. It's bikini. Now you have wellness. Now you have fit model. So it's going to be even longer.
I just couldn't do you, Judge. We just we talked about how AI judge. Like, remember, I think we talked about this, the AI judges. Like get computer judges because I don't know how the judge gonna sit there. Even want to go to the bathroom, want to drink water. You might well just put get like something like Johnny from for what's the space and just have him just download all of the bodies like that and put out the data. Here we got here from my man David J. Say like this. Only thing women bodybuilding and women physique can do is fight for their spot in IFBB, make sure they maintain showing up to the pro shows and coming up with investing for their divisions for a sport to thrive. That's the problem is those ladies don't want to fight. Seem like hey, come on, I talk about shit all the time. They don't want to fight. But I said again, you're a bunch of egg-sucking yellow belly dogs. But also he says this. He says prize money for bigger women athletes are going to be the same unless the IB decides to make the changes. They're not, because you know what? As long as the promoters, they're the ones who get the money in their pocket. The IB's not gonna say anything about it because they get the money from the sponsors, some of these companies that put into the shows. You got something to say, Eunice? I mean, sorry, Eunice. Why can't you say calling Eunice? Nicole, I know. I got my friend Eunice on the mind. Next week we'll talk about my friend Eunice. She's got a booth at Tampa coming up. Congratulations to her and Bad Rap. We might have something on that Sunday. We'll talk about with her if she's available. She can give us up. But Nicole, OCB is totally different compared to NPC because you have competed in NPC. What do you think is the difference, especially when it comes down to the money?
It's cheaper. I mean, it's expensive, but it's cheaper. The membership for a pro membership for OCB, I don't know what it is for NPC right now, but for OCB, the pro membership is $180 a year. You can and I think the big difference that I like about OCB is I turned pro and I was an amateur. I came in as an amateur and I left as a pro. I know NPC you got to qualify for a pro show, right? You can't turn pro in just one show. So
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
Nicole's right because
Yeah.
my client Sean did the show here, and there was a 17-year-old physique kid who turned pro, and a 22-year-old kid who turned pro in classic physique who beat my classic physique guy to turn pro. And Jack even said, disclosed to me that the OBC in Minnesota has taken over because there's hardly any NPC shows, and because Tom Kemper has given the NPC such a bad reputation and name, blasting Tyler Mannion and him and some other people in the NPC, that OBC has taken over in the state of Minnesota. And I liked it. I mean, because it was cool because that was the first show I went to that was OBC, and it was like the first half was men, and then the second half was women. So at the amateur show that was. So I don't know how they run the pro show, but it was all men. Then they had an hour and a half break or something like that, or hour break, and then it was all women. So it was actually pretty cool. So couldn't take any pictures or anything because of my affiliation with the IFBB and the APC, but it was a good show.
Yeah, and you also, George, you pay and Keely, you pay one flat fee. So people who come, you don't pay for prejudging. Then
Yep.
the finals is all one fee, and they do the prejudging and the finals like when I went up, like when all the figure competitors went up, they did all classes of figure, and when the open was finished, then they announced the winners. That's it. You have to come back and compete in the morning, come back in the afternoon or at night to find
Yeah, I
out.
remember.
Yeah,
I
so
remember.
it's one
Well,
thing I like about it.
Yeah, I remember when I went to Savannah, 2022, and I had when I went to buy my tickets, they give you a price for which tickets. Like if you're going to just do like a regular, nothing special, just go there and get a ticket. It was like maybe $60. Now, if you want to get a VIP, that was for
Yeah.
prejudging. It's 80. Now you go to the finals, it's going to be 80 just to sit, and then if you want to get in the VIP section, it's going to be 100 some change.
So you want to know something crazy? So this show I went to, so if you have a coach's pass, it gets you into the backstage and gets you tickets. If you're a pro and you want to go to the show, you have to send the IFBB Pro League office a letter saying that like I'm going to Jack's show. So he won't give you a ticket, even though he knows you're a pro. He won't give you a ticket, or Ann won't give you a ticket, till they know that you sent that. For one, your IFBB Pro card is current, and that you're going to the show. Then they will give you tickets to the amateur show. It's like, really, you don't know I'm a fucking pro, really? Come on. It's like seriously, it's always something. And I told you this years ago when I went to nationals in Miami. Dexter went there, and you're talking about Mr. Olympia, and they gave him 2 tickets, and he had to buy the rest. I said, wait a minute, this is one of the probably the winningest bodybuilder in IFBB history, and you're only going to give him 2 tickets. We're only there to support the promoters. I mean, we have athletes in the show, but we're there to support the promoter and to support our athletes. And you're going to charge us to get in the show. And for me to get in the show, I got to send a letter into the IFBB. You know who the fuck I am. Come on now. And I got to send a letter to the IFBB league office to say, hey, I'm going to Jack Chatone's show. Could you tell them I'm going so I can get free tickets? Are you fucking shitting me?
Well, I don't know, Keith. Plastic surgery is getting cheaper all the time. So that's probably what they're trying to curb at this point.
Come on, look
So
at
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
Right.
I
Right.
remember I remember a lady who we were talking. She said, George, if you ever come to my show, we used to they give us like maybe I used to get maybe 2 tickets,
Yep.
and I have one for maybe my coach, and then an extra one. And she said, if you come, I will give you a ticket. But then I mean, one year she told me like, George, I wish I could give you a ticket. I wish you come to my show, but they don't give us but
give you
one
one.
ticket now, and that doesn't make sense because if you think about it, that's one thing. If you have competitors come to compete in your show, and they have maybe a friend, a family member, or the coach want to come, wouldn't you want them to be able to enjoy the show? I mean, you don't have to get out of pocket.
Well, it's
That's
like
a
Nicole
cost.
said. Nicole said, I mean, we're paying for a pro card. Whether you're OBC, NAMBF, IFBB, it's $275 for my pro card. If I could, and Nicole said, I compete once a year. So that's the least you can do for us as athletes. Because not only are we paying you, which we shouldn't be anyway, no matter what federation. In the NFL, I got an NFLPA card, and my goes out of my goes out of my union dues and everything else that I pay the NFL. That's why I get a pension every month now. But at the exact same time, you get one ticket, which you used to get 2. You're not only paying for a pro card, but you're putting asses in the stands. You're putting asses in the seats, and you're going to only give me one ticket. So not only am I paying $275 for a pro card, yeah, I'm bitching, and not only am I bringing 10 to 15, 20 people to come watch me compete, but you're only going to give me one ticket for and my wife's competing in the same fucking show this year in Chicago Pro. So it's like we get 2 tickets, I guess, and we still got to pay for our daughter, and that's it, really. So we done dropped $300, almost $500, well, over $500 on pro cards, and we just get 2 tickets for the show. That makes no sense. And that's the problem that people are having. It's like the guy said, and I agree with the Mike guy who bitches that you turn pro and then you're still paying to play. And then if you're a master, you're not only paying for a pro card, but you're also paying to compete in the Masters division. So you got to pay for that as well. That's crazy.
Well, even then, it's just like the bodybuilding is one of the few things that you have that's like that you have to pay to compete as a pro.
Yeah.
When I mention that to other people, it's like that doesn't make any sense. You're not paid to compete. You pay to compete. So that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
We got a comment from man Damon J. Shout out to Damon J. Stating here, it says, I'm noticing a trend of women bodybuilders in the IB not showing up at the pro shows this year, and then they are left with 3 women, 4 or 5 women only each of these shows lately. Yeah, the big problem is sometimes the cost of traveling, and then yes, again, some competitors say they rather wait till later in the summer. But then the thing is, you miss out opportunity. Just saw was originally going to be 5 ladies at the Imperial, but it came to 4. And you're going to have a lot of competitors in certain divisions because some of those ladies don't want to go up. The lady who won at Imperial, she looked like she could have women's bodybuilding, but the aesthetics is sometimes always different in whatever you look at it from the eye. Here, the man Damien again, shout out to him. He's been sticking in here, supporting up. Says, I'm a huge fan of Rachel Daniels. I'm rooting for her to be in the top 5 of this year's Olympia. That's a possibility. She's very impressive. This is the cost of food is one thing for y'all competitors because you need it for the process of growing. And this is a lady who I follow. Maybe someday I get to interview with her if she, because I love to get out. Her name is Ann, McKenzie, and Ann is an amateur. She's competed at shows like the USA's presidency. She goes by the name of the Pink Beast, and she posted this where what she does that helps her, like for one thing, the cost of food, and she gives some advice. This is Ann right here. She's very impressive. I mean, I hope eventually she does get a pro card. I think she might be doing a show this year because she's training. But I'm gonna put up the video where she talks about, what she does, something that helps her save costs of food, especially for competing.
All right, so we got a tip for bodybuilding on a budget. Cream of rice. It is a staple when it comes to many lifters. But cream of rice is ridiculously expensive. Like, why? Small box thing is like $5 last time I checked. Here's what you do. Cream of rice is literally ground up rice. So buy yourself a bag of white rice, brown rice if you're feeling snazzy, and measure it out and grind it up in a coffee grinder, right? Now, of course, we're going to put the disclaimer out there. Use an external coffee grinder before we got some nonsense talking about, oh, my coffee grinder is in my coffee pot. Okay, buy a different one. So get a coffee grinder, grind up the rice, measure it out. For every 50 grams of rice, you want a cup of water. Now, you can fight with the microwave, or you can do it the super easy way. Get yourself a tiny pot, put your amount of water in there. Again, 1 cup for every 50 grams of rice. Put it on the stove, turn it on, and then go and measure your rice. Measure it out with your gram scale, grind it up, and then whenever it's ready, you slowly add it in, whisking. Okay, so slowly whisk it in to your pot of boiling water. By the time you're done, you might need to whisk for like 10 more seconds and it's ready. Super easy, super quick, super cheap cream of rice. Put your additives in it. What do you put in it? Stevia or other sugar-free sugars, cinnamon in there, frozen fruit. I prefer frozen blueberries. Maybe you put in the sugar-free vanilla or other flavored, the coffee syrups, whatever the hell you put in there. Add it in. Protein powder, whatever. And you got your cream of rice. So there you go, your tip for bodybuilding on a budget.
Well, that's a good tip. I think I shared this a while back. Some ladies like the idea of it because cream rice is very popular in the staples of dieting. Like you stick a little bit more on here of like I said, she has a piece of physique. I hope she does get up to get a pro card. I know she last competed a couple of shows. I remember one year she competed with a lady I interviewed at the USA's, and I think she was in the top three. But for women's bodybuilding, you only get pro card for one class. You don't get as many as compared to the other divisions. But I hope she does get the opportunity, and maybe in the future, hey, I'm gonna leave her link in the description if anybody want to reach out to her, and get some more advice from her. Hello?
Yeah, if you're able to find ways to be able to make ends meet, I mean, especially with something like this, then yeah, I mean, by all means, try and do. Like I used to do all my rice because I'm a big rice guy too, and that I used to do that in pots and such like that, and do it really cheaply and such like that. Finally, I caved in and bought a rice cooker, and
Me too.
now it's just simply a matter of pour it in, put the rice, push the button, ding when it's done. That's
Yep.
it. So unbelievably simple. So, but yeah, because rice goes with everything.
Yeah.
Makes everything
Yeah.
stretch. Makes everything stretch out. I found that
Hey,
rice
hey,
is good. I found this is probably not very healthy for you, but something that I found is delicious is just cook a cup of rice, mix in some butter and some Parmesan cheese. Mix the three of those
hey,
together.
brother.
Wow, is that
Hey,
good?
hey, hey, brother. I grew up poor kid on welfare. My mom had to learn how to how to stretch a dollar, and rice was the centerpiece of our meals. We make sure we had meat too, but my mom cooked rice. Rice. Maybe make some gravy, take some flour, a little piece of meat. Put it to the side and put it with the gravy. Make it nice little thick. I mean, when I started eating a little healthy, I try to cut back on my rice because one thing is it's expensive to eat healthy compared to just how I grew up. Like you can find some in discounts, and then the one thing you learn is some things you can find good meats when they have it sale. You just gotta buy as many as you can. Like sometimes they have sale for like ground turkey or ground chicken. Sometimes the the meat's still good, you know, and sometimes you have to if you go like here. One of our biggest stores is Food Lion, and if you have an MVP card, you get a discount. So, and with me, I get social. I get I get well. I don't get much in EBT food stamps because I get so much in my disability. But I do have a program through my health insurance, which gives me healthy choices, which help me pay for my bill, my light bill, and also helps pay for food. I can even get stuff that's not considered food items, because it's healthy stuff. I remember back when one way they helped me to save my money for my trip to Savannah was when we were going through the pandemic, and we were getting like $200 or $300 worth of food stamps. I know my mom was getting before she passed. I was getting some, so we was able to stack up, you know, and that helps out because I can save money. Because if when you run out of money, food costs money because it gets taxed. But when you have EBT, food stamps, snaps, I know people back in the day. My mom used to like try to make her dollars stretch. So now you got trade in. Used to be a grocery store where you can buy goods with it, but then they started kicking them out because they cut on because they knew they couldn't get taxes. But it's always a way around something. You just got to figure it out. You got to be smart about your shopping. And also, one thing I learned a long time ago, my mom always told me this: never shop hungry. Make sure you eat something before you leave the house, because you do, your stomach's going to be seeing stuff, and they look good and look tasty, and you just you be like, I didn't need to buy all of that, but you just got to sit there and count. See, wait, let me see what I got here. Okay, I'm good. I just get under it.
Right.
Here.
You go to buy chicken and rice, and then the next thing you know, you bought 5 pizzas.
Yeah, I got here. Man, Damon J says I don't like cream of rice. More a cereal guy myself, but I digress. It sounds healthy. The added things in the cream of rice she suggested. Yeah. Also, he says this: improvise of making your meals when you don't have certain things and you can't afford it. You got to do that sometimes. Yeah, you got to sometimes. Like I said, we go country. We knew places where you can get stuff discount. It used to be back in the day. Used to be guys come to a truck selling fish. He was cheaper than going to the go actually a store. You know, it's there's ways to try to save money. And also like a lot of bodybuilders, who they have RC codes, QRC codes, and little codes. So if you see like they're like a athlete for a supplement company, and you like the supplement, you use their codes. Used to be back then, you used to give them cash money, but now they get some kind of benefits because they use the codes.
Well, it's not cheap by any stretch of imagination, but it's you have to, like they say, you have to be creative with foods. And between me and my wife, we eat a lot of fucking food, a lot of food. So but it's ways that and I mean, respectively for us, money's not an issue when it comes to food and things like that. But you still don't want to, you still just don't want to waste money. But it's, we find ways to eat healthy, put things in perspective, and that you just have to budget for it. And that's the problem, with a lot of, and this is what, these seminars are for when people, and Nicole knows this as well, when you get into this, you have to put everything in perspective, especially for women. Like, Keaton, my client, is different. He wore a classic physique trunks, and he had to get a tan. You know, and just for this show alone to get to this show in Des Moines, Iowa, he spent about 3 grand, and this is for a natural show. It's not no gear, no nothing. That's just between his Airbnb, my Airbnb, tickets for his family, and all this other stuff he spent. I think he said he's about 3 grand. So if you take that, imagine what Reagan had to spend on her suit, her tan, and her parents came in from Texas, food, everything else. It's probably more like 5 grand. But again,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, this is the things that you have to put in perspective for athletes who understand chasing at whether it's just competing just to compete, just to say they're one of the 3%, or competing to chase after a pro card. Like Reagan, yesterday, I come in the gym and she's just after winning, she's in the gym. She goes, I can't stop. She goes, I understand I have nationals in November. And I'm like, well, I need you to take a couple of days off. She goes, no, I don't want to take a couple of days off. She's 21. And I said, well, okay. But again, some people, plus she's, got good mom and dad who support her and brother and sister who support her. But that's not everybody's life. So people have to understand and put in perspective, this is not a cheap sport. So when that guy said it's not a sport, it is a sport and it ain't cheap. It's probably the most expensive sport that you're going to, it's like Keaton said to me the other day, and he put it in perspective, and I said, you have to understand, I was 3-time runner-up on USA's and Nationals, and literally every time I went on stage, I was probably on stage for about 3 or 4 minutes. Literally, because they already know who the top 3 is. And so you're on stage for 3 or 4 minutes, and then all the other classes get to be on stage longer. I'm like, well, at least work me a little bit so I know I'm getting my monies out of the fucking shit. But they don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I always tell people, and Nicole can say the same thing. What we do is the definition of insanity. Because we're not on stage for very long for all the hard work we put into it, for the residual not to be the residual, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well,
and it's sorry, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but Usain Bolt, I think that's what he said. He said he trained 4 years to run 7 seconds.
What'd you say?
Yeah. Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt. He said I trained 4 years to run 7 seconds, and people complain when they don't get results overnight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got the likes of Michelle Brandt, 25 to 30 years it took her to get her pro card.
Well, think about it, John Meadows.
25 years.
Remember John Meadows before he passed away? How long was that? Like 20 years?
Yeah.
So
it's like, I think one thing that a lot of young people, though, get, and I've mentioned this before, is they get a really distorted idea of what happens once you get the pro card.
Yeah.
Is that they think, oh, the contracts are going to come. Oh, the media is going to want to interview you. Oh, you're going to be the creme de la creme. Like, are you fucking kidding? You got to really stand out in order to be able to. It's like it's not going to. You have to go to them.
Yeah.
More often than not, you have to go to them rather than they come to you. And then even if they do come to you, that's why they call it 15 minutes of fame. So it's like, I think a lot of younger people get this distorted idea, oh, your life is going to change all for the better when you get the pro card. It's like, sorry. There's reality versus fantasy.
And that's what I think that where athletes are shortchanged at getting into the sport. And I love it because and I'm sure Nicole with her clients as well, I put things in perspective. And even as a judge, I understood that I was not getting the true, authentic answers that I want. So when I'm a judge, I give them the true, authentic answers that I never got. And they get pissed at me. I'm like, then don't fucking come up to me and ask me, what it is. And I'm also going to break down how much it costs to compete in this sport. It is not cheap. It is very expensive. The percentage of people who actually turn pro naturally or whatever is very low. It's like any person who's a pro athlete in anything, the percentage of being a pro, whether it's bodybuilding, natural or unnatural, football, baseball, is a very small percentage of people. 3%, as Jack would say, 3%. So they have to understand that. But understanding in this particular sport, you're always, no matter what, going to be paying to play, no matter what level you're on.
Right, exactly. Well, guys, I got to head out. It's a really good conversation. Good to see you both, Keys.
Good talking to you, bro.
George, good to see you again, Nicole.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate it. We appreciate our man Jeremy coming through and dropping his knowledge. And I think as we talk about the younger competitors, I think the big problem is that the mindset they have. They're like how my man Jerome was saying, a bunch of them are still wet behind the ears and breasts smell like similar. They don't understand that
Jerome in the
It
house.
fits. It fits.
Jerome in the
Jerome in the Jerome in house, house. You know, and that's the thing is that you're not going to get to this point without putting the time in, the work in, the money in, the finances in. This sport is not simple. And then if you're young, especially starting out, a lot of, like I said, like somebody too they have to charge for their competitions. They have to put it on a credit card. This is one problem why there was so many women for some shows, because you got shows here and there, and if they're lucky enough to get sponsorship. Like I talked to a lady, she did a show, and I said, "Hey, you did a great show, so I said, maybe we get you to come here over the States because she lives overseas." I said, "Well, she does got a sponsor, but she's hoping she can find some more because she would love to come here and compete in America. There's more shows, more opportunities for her here compared to where she lives at. Like I think counting the Imperial, maybe Muscle Fists, Portugal. That's in a couple of weeks. There's a show that Dennis James he promotes because it was in the UK, but now it's his show. And and then also you have the Masters Olympia in Japan. And I know a lady who was interviewing named Donna Jones. She started a GoFundMe because she tried to pay because she's going to do Chicago in a month, and she's going to do the Masters and Open. But she said if she gets her Masters Olympia qualification, she's looking to maybe have make some money so she'll be able to pay the cost of doing, you know, um, to go to Japan. You know, um, the thing is, it's
ain't
just
cheap.
need people who want to invest into these athletes. It's not nothing ever cheap. Never
Well, and
if it
here's the
was if
thing:
it was a cheap
a
sport,
lot
everybody
of
would do it.
people.
Like you said, like Ronnie Coleman said that.
Well, it's a lot of people, who's, I mean, you got to look at it from the standpoint of if they want to support the athlete, they want to support the athlete just to support the athlete, but because they're like, well, what am I getting out of it? That's the question. I'm supporting you, but what am I getting out of it? So that's a hard sell. Like, not unless you own a company and things like that, and can just, and you have this extra residual income where you can help an athlete. Most people, it's like, well, what am I getting out of this for? I mean, and I think every ticket that I looked at from Japan, the Master Olympia, is no less than $1,500. So that's just for the ticket. So to get there, then and then the prize money. I don't even know. I know last year was, or 2 years ago was 10 grand. I know Tada. I know the weird thing is he's promoting the show with Iris, and he actually just announced. I don't know if you've seen it, but he was posing with somebody. He's actually defending his title, so he's actually doing the Master Olympia as well. So he's promoting the Master Olympia with Iris and doing the Master Olympia, because he's from Japan. So it makes sense that he would only compete. But he's not only promoting the Master Olympia, but he's doing the Master Olympia as well, which is weird, but it is what it is. I mean, so, and I think in this video when he was posing, he said
Wouldn't that be a kind of wouldn't that be
yeah,
kind of a
conflict of
conflict of
interest.
interest if
Yeah,
you
but
are
I've seen videos of him. I'm not worried about him, to be honest. I mean, I show my boy Ray Short ain't work. I mean, at the end of the day, like I tell people, because everybody sits there. Here's the one question that people ask me. They're like, "Well, you're gonna become a judge, so if you have a competitor competing in the show," I said, "Here's the thing. Just because I have a competitor in the show, if they're not the winner, they're not the winner. I understand. I get the political aspects of bodybuilding. So I'm not going to sit here and say I have an athlete in the show and I'm going to put him in front of the person that's better than them. But I have a subjective point of view, unlike a lot of people in this sport. So it's different for me than other people. If I had one guy who was a police officer here, and I was just telling my client about him the other day. He was like, "Oh, well, I didn't train with Keith, so he's on the judging panel, and I know he's not going to give me a fair shake." I walked up to him, actually, and showed him my scorecard. And I said, and he won. And I said, I had you in first place. I go, because you didn't train with me, that has nothing to do with where I place you in the show. If you're the better competitor, you're the better competitor at the end of the day. I don't take shit whatsoever. So people have to understand that part of the judging process is people taking their feelings out of who's the favorite and who they like, and actually judging shows on which they should be doing is basing judging shows off who's the better athlete, not who's the favorite or who's, because I remember Charles Glass told me